Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're diving into the world of AI agent frameworks.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, a new one. It's causing quite a stir, actually. It's called Pydantic AI. And, you probably already know Pydantic. It's kind of like the gold standard in Python.
Right.
For data validation.
Yeah.
But now, it's stepping into the ring to try to manage AI agents.
It's really interesting because Pydantic is already like the backbone of a ton of AI and LLM tools.
Yeah, it's always just been there, right?
Yeah.
Just making sure the data is structured correctly.
Looking behind the scenes.
So seeing it move to center stage as a framework itself.
Right.
That's a big shift. So we've got a ton of resources for this one. We've got articles, videos, even the official Pydantic AI documentation.
Yeah.
And they're all buzzing about what this thing can do. Model-agnostic design, really obsessed with structured output. They even have a really slick dependency injection system.
Oh.
So are you ready to see if it lives up to the hype?
Let's do it.
Let's unpack it.
Yeah. So to really understand why this is such a big deal, I think we have to go back to Pydantic's roots. Its popularity really comes from this idea of ensuring that your data fits specific structures. So it's kind of like a blueprint enforcer. Like if your data doesn't match the plan, Pydantic throws a flag.
Okay, so almost like a code quality control expert. But how does that actually translate over to AI specifically?
Well, it's especially relevant when you're working with LLMs and tasks that require structured output. So imagine you're using function calling. The LLM's response needs to be in a very specific format for your code to be able to use it. And that's where Pydantic steps in.
Okay, so it's about making sure that that LLM is playing nicely with the rest of your code. Now, one of the things that I keep hearing over and over again is that Pydantic AI is model agnostic. So it's not just tying you to OpenAI, is that right?
Exactly. You can use Google's Vertex AI, you can use Groq, Anthropic is even on the roadmap. And this is huge because it means you're not locked into a specific provider. You can really shop around and find the LLM that best suits your needs and your budget.
Freedom of choice, I like that. Another thing that keeps coming up is this vanilla Python approach. Does that mean that it's going to be pretty easy to pick up for anyone who already knows Python?
Absolutely. So instead of creating some new complex syntax, Pydantic AI actually embraces Python's type hinting system. This means it's really easy to learn, it's easy to debug, it's easy to maintain, especially for developers who are already comfortable with Python.
So it's more about extending what Python already does well, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. It enhances existing Python practices for working with LLMs.
Okay, I like it. So now let's talk about the core of Pydantic AI. Structured output. So it sounds like what it's doing is it's taking those Pydantic models, those data blueprints, and it's applying them to what the LLM is producing.
Precisely. So you use those models to define exactly what structure you expect from the LLM's response. It's not just hoping for the bust. You're setting clear expectations from the start.
So you're ensuring that the output is not just some random text blob, right? It's something that you can actually take and work with in your code.
Right. And this not only ensures consistency, but it also allows for something really cool, which is validating streamed responses in real time.
Hold on, real time.
Yeah.
So you're not waiting for the entire response to come back before you check if it's correct.
Nope. It's like a live quality check as the response is coming in.
Okay.
Especially useful with large language models, where responses can be quite lengthy and a little bit unpredictable.
Now, I'm really curious about this dependency injection system. I've heard this term before, but it can be a little bit abstract. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so think of dependency injection as giving your AI agent a toolbox. So it can reach into this toolbox for things like database connections, external APIs, or even custom functions that you've written. It's all about making your agent more powerful without cluttering up its core code.
Okay, so instead of the agent needing to know all the nitty-gritty details about connecting to a database, for example, you just give it access to a tool that handles that.
Exactly, and this makes your agents much more modular and reusable. You can easily swap out components or modify behavior without rewriting everything.
Very cool. Very powerful. It reminds me of one of our sources that talked about building a bank support agent with Pydantic AI. And this agent could handle things like balance inquiries. It could even block a card.
That's a fantastic example of how all of these features that we've been talking about really work together. So you have structured output that ensures the responses are usable by your application. Dependency injection allows you to provide the agent with the data and tool that it needs to perform those actions. And the model-agnostic design means that you can choose the best LLM for the job.
This is already starting to make a lot of sense. But before we go any further, I would love to hear what you, our listeners, think so far. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this deep dive. And leave a comment. Let us know your first impressions of Pydantic AI. What kind of agents would you build with this? We're always looking for new ideas, so let us know.
And don't forget to like the episode if you're enjoying it. Now, where were we? Yes. Let's talk about a real-world example, a bank support agent.
Hold on a second before we go there. I have a question. We've been so focused on this structured output, but what if you just need the LLM to chat, like in a more conversational setting? Can Pydantic AI handle that too?
Oh, absolutely. Pydantic AI isn't just about rigid structures. It can handle those free-flowing chatbot scenarios as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there are some great examples in our sources showing how developers are using it to build chatbots for all sorts of purposes.
So it's versatile. I like that. I'm thinking like customer support bots, virtual assistants.
Exactly. One example that stood out to me was a mental health chatbot.
Oh, wow.
The developer used Pydantic AI to create structured responses that included advice, resource links, even like a risk level assessment, all while maintaining a conversational flow.
That's really impressive. It's providing actual information, right? Not just generating random chit-chat. But it sounds like it's walking this line between flexible conversation and that reliable structured output we talked about earlier.
Right. And remember, it's all done using standard Python practices. So even though we're dealing with complex AI, the code itself remains very readable and manageable.
This is really making me see the potential here. Okay, back to the structured side of things. We were about to talk about that bank support agent example. But first, there's one more concept I'm really curious about. Tools and function calling. How does Pydantic AI handle those?
Great question. This is where Pydantic AI really shines. So think of tools as functions that your agent can execute.
Yeah.
These could be simple calculations, fetching data from an API, or even controlling a physical device.
So my AI agent could actually make me coffee using a robot arm. That's straight out of science fiction.
Exactly. The possibilities are really endless. Pydantic AI provides this really structured way to define these tools and then make them available to your agents.
And what about function calling? Is that kind of like telling the agent to run a specific piece of my existing code?
That's a great way to think about it. Function calling lets you directly integrate your code into the agent's workflow. It's like giving the agent access to your code base and then the ability to execute functions on demand.
Okay. So we got these tools, we've got these functions, they're ready to go, but how does the agent know when to use them? It can't just randomly decide to start making coffee, right?
You're right. This is where those system prompts that we discussed earlier come in. They guide the agent's behavior. You can craft prompts that encourage the agent to consider using tools or calling functions based on the user's request or the task at hand.
So it's like giving the agent a set of instructions. If this happens, use this tool.
Precisely. It's all about setting clear expectations and giving the agent the right cues to make informed decisions. One of our sources had a great example using a package tracking tool.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
They built an agent that could answer questions about a user's order. And if it detected a question about shipping status, it would use a tool to fetch the actual tracking information from a database.
That's the power of tools and function calling. You're giving the agent access to real-world data and capabilities. It's not just generating text, it's taking action. Now, that example also mentioned something called model retry, and I found this really interesting. Can you remind me what that's about?
Yeah. Model retry is a way for agents to self-correct when they run into errors or inconsistencies. It's like saying, hey, if something goes wrong, don't give up. Try again, but consider these other factors.
So it's about making our agents more resilient, more adaptable, like real problem solvers.
Absolutely. Let's stick with that package tracking example. Imagine the database requires order IDs to have a specific prefix, like a hashtag. If the user forgets to include it, the query is going to fail.
Oh, and dead end.
Not with model retry. You can set up a retry prompt that specifically instructs the agent to check for that prefix. And if it's missing, the agent can try again with the corrected ID.
So it learns from its mistakes and adapts. This is making me think about security, though. If our agent is out there using tools, accessing databases, how do we make sure it's doing so responsibly?
That's a crucial consideration, and thankfully, Pydantic AI has built-in safeguards. That emphasis on type safety and validation that we talked about earlier, it extends to tool use and function calling.
So it's not just making sure the data is structured correctly, it's also about making sure the agent is only allowed to perform actions that we authorize it to do.
Exactly. You can define the exact parameters and data types that each tool or function accepts, which prevents the agent from being tricked into performing harmful actions.
Okay, that's a relief. It's good to know that security is baked into the framework. All of this is making me really excited about the possibilities of Pydantic AI. It's taking the power of Pydantic, which developers already love, and it's tailoring it specifically for building AI agents.
I agree. It's a really powerful and accessible tool. What excites me most is how it simplifies. Building robust AI agents that can handle real-world complexity.
I think it's time to take stock of what we've learned so far and really dive into those implications.
Great idea. Let's recap everything in part 3 of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in our Pydantic AI exploration. It's time to zoom out and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, let's recap some of the key takeaways. So we started with Pydantic's roots in data validation, that blueprint enforcement, making sure your data is structured correctly. And then we saw how Pydantic AI takes that concept and applies it to this world of AI agents.
Right, it's all about making sure that those agents are working with reliable structured data, both in what they're receiving and what they're outputting. No more hoping that the LLM is just going to spit out something usable. You define exactly what you need from the start.
Exactly.
And we can't forget the flexibility. Pydantic AI is model-agnostic.
Yeah.
So you can choose the best LLM for the job without being tied to a specific provider.
Right. That's huge.
No vendor lock-in.
Yeah.
It also seems like they put a lot of thought into making Pydantic AI really approachable for Python developers. So that vanilla Python approach, leaning into type hinting, should make it easier to learn and use, especially for those already familiar with Pydantic.
Yeah, it's all about leveraging existing knowledge and making that transition to AI agent development much smoother.
For sure. But I think what really elevates Pydantic AI is that dependency injection system.
Oh, yeah.
It's like giving your agents a toolbox full of these specialized tools and resources.
It really is, yeah.
No more agents needing to know the ins and outs of connecting to databases or APIs. You just hand them a tool and it handles it.
Right. It makes them so much more powerful and adaptable.
And that adaptability extends to the agent's ability to learn and self-correct as well. So that model retry feature, where the agent can try again with adjusted parameters if something goes wrong, it's really incredible. It's so valuable for building real-world applications.
Right. It's like they're building resilience into the agents themselves.
Yeah.
They're not just blindly following instructions. They can handle these unexpected situations and course correct.
That's impressive.
It really speaks to the developer's focus, I think, on building tools for real-world scenarios.
Yeah, too.
And, they've also clearly thought about security, extending that type's safety and validation all the way to tool use and function calling.
Absolutely, which is crucial. Giving these agents access to these external resources is really powerful. But it does come with risks. So knowing that Pydantic AI has these safeguards built in makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
Right, I agree. So what's the takeaway here? I think for me, it's that Pydantic AI has the potential to be a game changer for AI agent development. It's powerful, it's flexible, it's built with the real world in mind. It's like they took everything great about Pydantic and applied it to this new frontier of AI agents.
I'm with you. This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to the possibilities. I'm already starting to think about the kinds of agents I could build with this.
Me too. What's so fascinating is that it's not just for experts. That emphasis on these familiar Python concepts and that clear, structured design really makes it accessible to a much wider range of developers.
This brings us to our final thought for you, our listener. What possibilities do you see for Pydantic AI in your own work or projects? What challenges are you facing that this framework could help you address?
Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your ideas and getting a glimpse into how you're using these tools out there in the real world.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future explorations. We're always on the lookout for new and exciting technologies to unpack. Until next time, keep on learning, keep on building, and keep on diving deep.